Today, tonight, I'm going to introduce you a little bit to the topic of Vedic astrology and how it can be helpful for yogis, yoga practitioners, and specifically in relationship to the Hatha Yoga practice. It's a very close link. For just to introduce you, what is Vedic astrology? It is called Jyotish, or Jyotisha. It's one of the Vedic science. It's called a Vedanga, one of the limbs of the Vedas. So it's very ancient kind of knowledge that came from the rishis themselves. One of the great rishis that revealed the science of astrology was Parashara, who was actually the father of Vyasa, who, as you might know, he wrote the Vedas, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, many important scriptures and commentaries. And those rishis, they didn't just came up with some idea, they received that knowledge on their deep, deep meditation state, where their mind became in tune to the cosmic mind. And then all these secrets of how the world works, how is the order of the world, what puts everything in motion, and all these secrets became revealed. So it's called revealed knowledge. It's not just a man-made kind of knowledge. It's very interesting to know that in the Vedic times, I'm sure you learn in school or high school that Galileo and Copernicus, they discovered that the earth was round and the earth was rotating around the sun and so on, no? That's not really true. Thousands of years before that, it was already written in the Vedas that the earth was spinning around the sun and all the different planets, and that the earth was round and a ball, and they could calculate with exact precision, they could predict the eclipses and the position of the planets at any given time. They had a very, very advanced knowledge of astronomy. We're talking even before the observatories and all this, way, way before that. How did they know that? It's through yogic practices, like, we know from the Yoga Sutras that if you practice samyamas, there are specific samyamas, special meditation techniques, you get to know many different secret things from the world. One of them is the science of astrology. So, what's the connection? How this is astrology related to life? Basically, the planets are the agents of karma. God is the one who delivers the karma. I already explained about karma, you've already been studying it. So there's no need to talk again about this topic, but how does karma work? How do we get the result of our karma in our life? So it says, God or Ishvara is the distributor of the karma. And according to the Parashara Maharishi, he explained that the Lord Ishvara, he incarnated as the Navagraha, which means the 9 planets, to bestow on the living beings the result of their karmas. So in the Vedic tradition, the 9 grahas, or 9 planets, are considered as divine manifestations, divine incarnations. So you go to most of the temples in India, you will go, there is a shrine to the 9 planets. And they're worshipped and they're been done, puja every day and so, because they are considered to be just like the hands of God, you can say, working, distributing our karmas. So, and then there are very interesting things to understand about that, because when you are born, you're not born by accident at the time and place that you are born, but it is actually when there is a particular configuration in the sky of the planets placed in a certain position that corresponds exactly to the kind of karma that you came here to experience. So your soul, your astral body is waiting, experiencing other realms, non-physical realms, and so until the time is ripe. When the time is ripe, you incarnate. And you don't just incarnate randomly. You come at the right time according to your karma. Therefore, by understanding the position of the planets at the moment of the birth of a person, it gives us a map of what kind of karma the person brought into this life. And then there are techniques. It's a very deeply developed science, and how to know when those karmas are going to be fructifying in different times of the life. Because we are born like with a bunch of seeds, let's say, and then those seeds remain in the soil until the proper conditions are created. Like, for example, you put seeds in the soil, all kind of seeds, you throw them there, and some of them might sprout right away. Some of them might be dormant and wait for the, next spring. Some might remain in the ground for several seasons, and one day they will sprout. So they will sprout at different times. So the same way we are born with our bunch of karmas, karmic seeds to be experienced. This is called the prarabdha karma. But it's not that you're born and you have all your karma in front of your eyes. You don't know what life is waiting ahead of you, but it's all actually known as the time of your birth. It's already in your, you can say, your astrological configuration. So by really studying deeply the science of Jyotish or Vedic astrology, you can really start to understand what kind of karma you bring into this life. And then, you understand all the different areas of life. Like, there are basically 4 areas of life, 4 kind of desires or topics that are important in life, that are artha, kama, dharma, and moksha. So, dharma is what is your duty, what you came here to do, what is, your main mission in this life, what is your path to righteousness, which is a little bit individual. Each of us, we have a certain mission to perform, or certain, duties to do according to our past karma. So you are born under certain circumstance. So this is all, you can say, part of our prarabdha karma. Then there is artha, which is your material life. How you're going to be having an easy material life, be rich, have prosperity, or you're going to be struggling and poor, or have a lot of needs, material needs in your life, and so all this is also a result of past karma, and it can be seen in the birth chart. And there is kama. Kama is all your enjoyments of life, how pleasant life is for you, how, it includes your relationship life, includes, arts and, social life, So some people, have a more easy life, so to say. They are more enjoying their life more. Some others find it more difficult. So this is called the kama. And then there is moksha, which is the search for liberation, which is actually the true goal of life, is to attain liberation. It's the highest goal of being born. Life basically is a school. We come here to learn lessons, to purify our karma, eventually to be able to get rid of all our karma and attachment to the material plane, and allow our mind to become merged in the absolute reality, in the infinite reality. This is called moksha. So also some people are born with more interest in moksha. So you see that the motivations of people are different. Some people are very motivated to make money in this life. That's what they live for. They want to be successful, make a lot of dollars, and, buy things, and so. Other people, their most important desire is to enjoy the senses. They just want to go to parties and look always beautiful and wear the best, most sexy dress and get the best, most beautiful sexual partners and go to the luxurious restaurants and buy their luxurious yacht and live in a life of pleasure, and so it's their goal. They want to achieve that. They want to enjoy that. There are others which are motivated by dharma, by righteousness, by justice, by understanding what is right, what is wrong. And then there are those whose main desire, most strong desire, is moksha, achievement of moksha. So those are the ones that usually become yogis or become monks. They go into deeper spiritual practice. It's like their priority. They are able to renounce to the other things just to really achieve that desired goal. These motivations can be also seen in the birth chart. What is your strongest motivation? It might also change because you might have certain motivation at some period of your life, and then at another period you might change, and suddenly you have some kind of spiritual awakening or something like that. Then you become more aware of your fulfilling your spiritual desire, desire for liberation, and so on. All those things can be seen in the birth chart. Now, what you cannot see in the birth chart is if you're going to attain moksha or not. Why not? Because moksha, you see, what we see in the chart is all about karma. But the Atman is beyond karma, it's untouched by karma, it's the witness of karma. So either you're going to realize the self, the soul, or not. It depends on, factors related to your personal sadhana and also some divine grace and the grace of a teacher, right guru on that path. But it's not something that is already predetermined that you're going to attain moksha. You might have all the best conditions and desire, but still don't make it. So this is something that is not knowledgeable by astrology. Now there are different branches of astrology. One is more related to astronomy. There is observation of the sky, recognizing the different stars and constellations and where the planets are placed. It's called Gola. Then there is all the mathematical calculations that you need. You need to know a lot of astronomy and mathematics, understand the cycles of the different planets and so on. Then there is we call the Jataka, which is more applied to the birth chart to understand the karma of individuals and how the karma unfolds in their lives, what their tendencies, what the samskaras you're born with. And it's very interesting to know your birth chart because the idea, the teaching in yoga is you become like a witness of your chart. You try to unidentify with it. It's not like in Western astrology, like usually it's emphasized you identify with your chart. Oh, I'm a Leo, therefore I am like this, I am, like that. And then you build up your whole identification. Oh, because I am a Leo and he's a Pisces, therefore we are not like this and like that. And that's not the way we look at it in Vedic astrology. You are not a Leo, you're not a Cancer, you're not nothing like that. You are the Atman. You have incarnated because of past karma. You are in a kind of prison of your own karma, and those planets are, performing their function on delivering your karma to you. And because of our spiritual ignorance, we identify with it. We are caught in this. Oh, this is I and me, and this is the drama of my life. This is me. But the teaching in the Vedic way is you learn really to observe your karma, and whatever happened to you, I understand to be as a result of karmas, and you detach from it. You detach from pleasure and pain, from desire and aversion, from gain and loss. Just let the karma unfold, whatever it is, and you remain in peace inside. So it's very interesting to know sometimes you are in crisis. Things seem so difficult in your life. You're going through some kind of bad period, bad transits. Then you say, okay, this is Saturn is afflicting my life or something like that. I have to learn how to be detached, how to endure that, how not to get, depressed by it. Then, it gives you an interesting tool to understand your life and your karma from a higher perspective. There is another branch of Jyotish which is called Muhurta. Muhurta is about understanding the power of each moment, each time. Each time has a particular energy. And if you start any activity, whatever activity you're starting, its result will depend on the position of the planets at the moment where you started that action. So this has different uses. In the ancient Vedic tradition, it was used, for example, in the karma kanda of the Vedas, to perform all the different karmas and rituals. They have to be done under when the planets are in this position. Let's say if you want to get sons in your life, like, you know, the old times was very important to have a son. So they, suppose they didn't have a son, they will go to the priest, perform a ritual, but they have to select a specific astrological date when the moon is in the right position, the sun is in this position. Then the rituals can be performed, then it will become successful. If you do the ritual very well, but you started in the wrong time, they will not be successful, like that. But then that's one use. Also, you can see for your regular life, let's say you want to start an important activity, you want to inaugurate yoga center, you want to, you know, move house, buy a house, you want to get married, any aspect of life, it's always good to know, trying to do it in a moment that is favorable for that activity. That will help you to be successful in that action. But that's a point where there is something very interesting for yogis, because yogis usually don't do things to achieve any material results. The interesting for yogis is actually how to get rid of the karma, how to not to create new karma, and how to be detached from karma. And there are specific moments in time that are very favorable for spiritual practices. I mean, every time is good for spiritual practice. Don't misunderstand me. Doesn't mean, oh no, today I should not meditate because the moon is not properly. No, I should meditate anyway. But there are certain times in the day, there are certain times in the year where the planets and the nature are, you know, creating an energy that is naturally going to take you to that state. And there are many situations, but basically those are called the Sandhi or Sandhya times. The Sandhya is it's a mandatory in the Vedas that during Sandhya you do prayers. It's called Sandha Vandanam. So especially the Brahmins, they have to worship Sandhya. I will explain what is Sandhya. Sandhya is a moment that there is neither day, neither night. When is that? This is just before sunrise, and then right after sunset. So you see, you start feeling a little bit of light, so it's like the night is over, but the day didn't start yet. Why is this moment so important and so favorable? So we've been studying Hatha Yoga. We're understanding about the sun and moon energy and how, you know, it relates to our mind and to. Now, there is something called the microcosm and something called the macrocosm. There is a whole world going on inside yourself. You know, you have your sun energy, your moon energy, then the different planets are actually in the different chakras, and they govern over the different elements, you know, earth, water, fire, and soul. And then there is the external planets and the external elements. You have the external sun and the external moon, then the rest of the planets. They seem to be out there, but in fact, you know what? They are not out there. Everything you see outside there is just a projection of your own mind. If you study Vedanta, you understand how it works. And not only in Vedanta, even in the classical yogic texts, in many yogic texts, it's explained. You know, everything out there You see, there's not really out there and in here. There's no separation. It's like there is no one space inside the cup and another space outside the cup. It's just one space, but the cup creates an illusion of having an inner space and an outer space. So like that we have like an inner life and an outer life. But this is just because our mind, it's caught by the superimposition, or because of the ignorance of the reality, we believe it to be like that. But when the mind is really silent in the state of meditation, then you experience there is no inside or outside, it's just one. It's just one space. And there is everything that exists in the universe exists actually within your own mind. So whatever you see externally there as the sun and the moon are actually your internal sun and the moon. The Ida and Pingala, the Ha-Ta, where the whole concept of Hatha Yoga is based on. So in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika and many other tantric texts and Hatha Yoga texts, it is said, you should do this practice when there is neither day, neither in the night. So you can say, when I'm going to practice it. So the thing is, you practice on the Sandhya times. These moments, you see, during the daytime, the sun energy is dominant, and during the nighttime, the moon energy is dominant. During the sun, there is more heat, the whole nature becomes active, becomes more rajasic, more outgoing. During the night, everything cools down. The sun is not there. The moon might be stronger or weaker, but it's there, and everything is cool, and everybody, goes to sleep. And so there are some animals that live at night, but most of the nature is like resting during the night. So you can see that external there is a predominance of sun energy in the day and moon energy in the night. But at these Sandhi times, right before sunrise and right after sunset, the sun and the moon energy are in perfect balance. There is no day, it is not night. Then what happens, when you try to balance your nadis at that time, you do Hatha Yoga, you try to really equalize the sun and moon energy, unite the sun and moon energy. If you try to do it at that time, it's much more easy and much more likely to happen than other times of the day. Not that you should not practice during other times of the day, but that time is like the best time. That's why the yogis do the practice at this time. The Brahma Muhurta, you begin before that, so when the Sandhi comes, it's like you are ready, to really be in that situation. So there is a particular current between the sun and the moon internally is going to happen at that time. Even if you're not doing anything, just nature itself is pushing you towards that union. Nature is like wanting this to happen. So if you just tune to that, you allow this to happen. If you have been working on the purification of the nadis and the right diet and all these yogic practices that we've been discussing, then it is at that time that you have the best chances to connect these two energies and unite and get into a non-dual state of mind. Then there are different kinds of sandhis. For example, there is a cycle of the earth around the sun, which creates the seasons. So there is, from fall, you see, from winter, let's say, from beginning of winter, it's the maximum cold, then it starts to become warmer, and warmer, and warmer, until you reach the summer, the middle of the summer, the moment the sun is more in the north. If you are in the northern hemisphere, the sun is in the top north, then the days, you get the longest day of the year, it's called the solstice. Then there is a predominance of sun energy in the middle of the summer. So then the sun moves to the south, and then when it reaches the extreme south, you experience the winter. Then there is a predominant of moon energy. So there is the summer solstice and the winter solstice. They are like the day and the night, but it's called the day and the night of the Devas. So 6 months for us, it takes the sun to move south, and 6 months it takes for us to move north. It says for the Devas, for the next level in the astral plane, it is correspond to 1 day and 1 night. This period is called the Ayana. The Ayana, you have the Uttarayana and the Dakshinayana. But there is moments when it is exactly equal. Those are called the equinoxes. So you have the spring equinox and the fall equinox. This day, when the length of the day and the length of the sun is exactly the same. The sun is halfway between the north and the south. And then those days, what happens is not just a particular hour, it's actually a period of approximately 3 days. Because it's 1 day, but even the day before and the day after, those days are very powerful also for spiritual practices. And all the yogis know that. Not only the yogis know that, all the ancient spiritual traditions knew that. The ancient Jewish tradition, the Sufi tradition, the Incas, the Mayas, the different native Indians, they all, use these moments to have their special celebrations and spiritual rituals and so for a particular reason. The moment of the solstice also is very important, because once the sun reaches a maximum strength, then it's like it will start to fade out, but it is like quiet. It is growing, then it stops, then it will go down. But at that moment of maximum height and the maximum low, also those are very important times. Also, that's why the noon time is very important and the midnight time is very important. So if you read the Hatha Yoga Pradipika and many other Hatha Yoga texts, they tell you the way you start the sadhana of Hatha Yoga. You go into a retreat, then you practice many rounds of Anuloma Viloma, but when do you do it? You're supposed to do it 4 times a day, at sunrise, at noon, at sunset, and at midnight. Those are the 4 sandhis. If you do it at that time, if you use those times to equalize your nadis, then your nadis will remain in balance for the rest of the day. See? So, Swami Vishnu used to say, you don't even need to do the midnight practice. Even if you do it 3 times a day, that's very powerful. And even if you do twice, let's say, sunrise and sunset, for a daily life, let's say for your life when you're active in the world and so, that would be enough. But that's, if you want to do twice a day pranayama, do it at sunrise and sunset, then you will get the maximum benefits of it. Of course, if you cannot do it because of any reason, working or you have other activities or so, then you can do it another time of day. It's still beneficial. It's not an excuse not to do it, but if you can do it at those times, it potentiates, it amplifies the effect of those pranayamas. So sunrise and sunset, noon and midnight, those are powerful times for sadhana. Now, they are actually very bad times for worldly activities. You see, the scriptures say, the Bhagavad Gita says, when there is the night for the people, is the day for the yogi, and when it's the day for the yogi, it's the night for the rest of the people. Because we do everything opposite. See, most people just want to go into the world and create a lot of karma and fulfill their desires and wishes and get entangled in the material world and so. So they're looking for good times. So if they come to ask me for a Muhurta, I have to give them a Muhurta where they're going to become prosperous, or, they have a happy marriage or something like that. But for the yogis, they want, when is the best time to have, when I can have less effect of my karma, get rid of them easier, and get into meditation easier. So usually they are opposite moments. Those moments that are more favorable for material activities, they are the less favorable for spiritual practices, and vice versa. There are exceptions. There are times which are good for both, material as well as spiritual kind of activities. Another very, very powerful time are the time of the eclipses. During the time of eclipse, you should never start any activity related with your material life. Never start a business or buy a house or sign a contract or something like that during the day of an eclipse. Everything will go wrong. Right? Never get married on a day of an eclipse. And I know of a few cases, and it's a bad story. You don't do, basically, the day of the eclipse, the only good thing to do is to do sadhana. And it's actually one of the best days to do sadhana. Because the creative force that goes outwards into the material results is completely blocked during the eclipse. The sun and the moon, you see, during the sun eclipse, what happens is the sun and the moon are conjunct. Yeah, so let's say from the earth, you have the moon in front of the sun, so it's the earth, the moon, and the sun. So the sun is completely blocked by the moon, but the moon also is blocked because you only see the shadow side of the moon, you don't see any light of the moon. So it always happens on a new moon day, when there is no moon. So the sun eclipse is always going to be on the new moon, and when it's exact, it suddenly will become dark, and then you will have neither sun energy, neither moon energy. But that's the best time to bring the prana into the Sushumna. You see? Now, whatever material activity you try to do, that will fail. You see? But if you try to do sadhana, it's the most powerful time. And Swami Sivananda writes a lot about it in some of his books. He says one of the best times to do japa, to do pranayama, to meditate, and also to give donation. Because normally you always want to get things, you want to take things, gain, no? But during the time of the eclipse, you will not gain. But if you give, then you get tremendous benefit, because you are detaching. Basically, when you are giving, you are releasing your karma, your attachment. See? By releasing your attachment, you become free. Whatever binds you is your attachment to your material possessions. So if you give them the day of the eclipse, you get maximum benefit of dana, or charity, it's called. You can do charity anytime, it's always good. But Swami Sivananda says during the day of the eclipse, always do that. Donate as much as you can to the poor. And he recommends never to be exposed on the light of the eclipse, because it's not favorable for health. So you should go into your cave, to your kutir, to your room, and just meditate, do japa, meditation, study some, deep philosophical text. These kind of activities are very favorable to do, but don't engage in any external activity. During the moon eclipse, it happens the opposite. There is the sun and the moon are exactly opposite to each other, and the earth is in the middle. But because the earth is in the middle, there is no possible communication between the two of them. You see, it's like the earth creates a shadow on the moon, so you don't see the moon. And that always happens on the full moon day. A moon eclipse can only happen during the full moon day, because that's when there is exact opposition between sun and moon. But this opposition between sun and moon, right, you can really use it also for sadhana. It's very powerful. But especially it's very good if you know in which direction to stand. according to where the sun and where the moon are, and where the north and the south is. Then you locate in the right place. Then you should have the sun on your left side, the moon on your right side. Because you see, our right side is the sun energy, our left side is the moon energy, but you're going to put the sun on your left and the left on the right, so it will neutralize your sun and moon energy. Now you can just bring everything into the Sushumna more easy than any other times. Mm-hmm. Like that, there are many other Sandhi times. There is also something called Chakranti. That's the moment the sun changes constellation. The sun remains, 1 month in each constellation. Each constellation represents a different dimension of experience. Different dimensions of our karma, different dimensions of our life. The moment the sun is changing sign, there is neither in one sign, neither in the other. It's right in the threshold. It's like you're standing there. You're neither inside, outside. So then the sun, you see, is like in nowhere's land. So that time also is very bad to start any activity related to get some material profit, but it's a very good time to do spiritual sadhana. And then there are many other astrological combinations that will be too technical to discuss it with you now, unless you study a little bit of the science of astrology, but there are certain combinations, certain conjunctions, certain oppositions that create, very favorable either for material or either for spiritual aspects of life, or sometimes for both. There is one day in the year where both the sun and the moon are in an exalted position. Exalted means they are in their maximum power. This day is excellent. It's the best day of the year, both for material and spiritual practices. So that was the last time was in which one? 3 weeks ago, no? I usually advise the ashram when to do those important activities to get the best results. Because, the ashram, we need to make the ashram prosper, not because of a selfless kind of attachment, because the prosperity of the ashram is very important to benefit, thousands of people who come here, and multiply by the thousands of people that they are affected by the people who come here. So we want to make sure the ashram does well, both spiritually and materially. So we always advise in the ashram about selecting good times for both material as well as spiritual things they need to be done, constructions, things, courses, whatever, travels. We want to make sure our swamis are safe and have a pleasant trip, don't get caught in any problem, and so we look for auspicious dates and so and so that's one of the uses of astrology. But for sadhana, you can take advantage by knowing some very basic principles. There's another important topic, is called the Tithi. The Tithi is called the lunar day. The lunar day, you see, from the new moon to the full moon, there's 15 Tithis. Then from the full moon to the new moon, there is 15 Tithis. So there are 30 Tithis totally. That's is a 12-degree separation between the sun and the moon. When there is exact new moon, the sun and the moon are exactly conjunct. Then, as they separate, that's the first Tithi. When they reach 12 degrees, then the second Tithi begins. When they reach 24 degrees, then the next Tithi begins. And like that, this is called the lunar days. So there are special lunar days that are also very recommended in the yogic scriptures. One of them is called Ekadashi. Ekadashi is the 11th day. It's the 11th day in the waxing cycle and the 11th in the waning cycle. So 11 days after the new moon and 11 days after the full moon. what happened is, you see, the moon has a very strong influence in our mind. And the way Swami Sivananda explains is that, you know, from the cosmic mind, the mind of God, the moon emerged. The moon was created from the mind of the cosmic being, from the Hiranyagarbha, universal mind, the mind of Ishvara, you can say. The moon manifested. And then the moon affects the minds of the individual. See, the moons, all the minds of the people are governed, are affected by the movement of the moon. And actually, I want to read to you literally, Swami Sivananda wrote about it. The lunar days, this is Swami Sivananda, the lunar days influence the function of the nadis, or the astral energy channels. It should be borne in mind that the moon exercises a powerful influence over the human mind. In the Purusha Sukta, one of the most important verses of the Vedas, that is repeated in the 4 Vedas, the only one, you find Chandrama Manaso Jataha, which means the moon was born from the mind of the Virat Purusha, or the cosmic being. In the cosmos, the moon is controlled by the cosmic mind. Now, the individual mind, being a speck of the cosmic mind, has therefore the connection with the moon, and being only a speck, it feels controlled by the moon. When the moon waxes and wanes, its connection with the mind also fluctuates, and thus there arises a sympathetic reaction in the mind. Hence, the relationship in the lunar, between the flow of the breath and the lunar days. See, the flow of our breath is very much affected by the position of the moon, because the moon affects our prana, and and our prana affects our mind. So they are all interconnected, they are all interrelated. So whatever happens in our nadis, where our prana is moving, where our prana is going, how fast is vibrating, how slow is vibrating, all this is regulated by the position of the moon. It's affected by the position of the moon. And then those lunar days, like Swami Shivananda says, those titis, are very significant, because there's a special, you see, there's a separation between the sun and the moon. So there are certain separations which this effect happen. If the sun is here and the moon is here, another effect happens. So each position, each relationship between the sun and the moon affects what happened between our internal sun and moon, inhalation and exhalation, prana, pana, etc. So what happened is, why is Ekadashi so praised in the scriptures? Because at that time, see, during the waxing Ekadashi, the 11th day after the new moon, then your prana is in the Anya chakra. And on the 11th day after the full moon, means the waning cycle, the prana is in the Anahata chakra. So your prana moves to different nadis and chakras according to the lunar days. There are cycles, there are the months. But during those days, Ekadashi, the prana will naturally be pushed in the same way that you have the tides. The moon affects the tides and pulls the water or pushes the water. The same way it pulls our prana to different energy centers. And in Ekadashi is in either of these 2 chakras. And by now the importance of these 2 chakras. Those are the ones used for meditation, the very important chakras for our sadhana. There is another very important day which is called the Trayodashi. It's the 13th tithi. 13th tithi is also very, very important for sadhana, and it's the best day to enter into the state of samadhi, according to Swami Shivananda also. He wrote a lot about it. He wrote many pages about how the 13 Titi affects our mind and our meditative capacity. And then he explained how, we have the different four states of consciousness. There is the waking, sleeping, deep sleep, and there is the Turiya, or fourth state, or superconscious state. But then there are divisions. Then there is, there is not just you're awake, you can be awake, or awake sleeping, or awake deep sleep, or awake Turiya. There are combinations. It's very subtle. We say there are four states. Actually, there are much more. There are more than two. And Swami Sivananda explains very well this. If you're interested, later I can tell you where you can read it. But on the 13th day is a moment where the state of consciousness is such that you are like in the state of deep sleep. It means there is no activity in the mind. There is no contact with external objects, and the whole external world disappears from your awareness. But at the same time, you are in the waking state. You are in the deep sleep state, but in the waking state. It's a deep sleep, waking, combination of the two. So you are awake, it's like being in deep sleep, but being fully conscious of it. And this is called samadhi. This is the practice of samadhi, is when your mind is completely inactive, but when you are in deep sleep, you lose your consciousness. You're not aware that you are in that state. But when you are in that state, in the 13th Titi, you become aware of it. Therefore, your mind is inactive, but you're present there. You're witnessing what's going on. And this is a very important moment. And this is called, paradosha, which means the beyond any impurities, beyond afflictions. Because the mind reaches the most, has the possibility at least. Of course, it's not going to happen to everyone, just in the 13th Titi you sit and you're going to enter in samadhi, It's going to happen only if you've been doing this practice and preparing yourself for many years. But then, that's why, in the Sivananda Ashram in Rishikesh, they celebrate this day. This day they do a lot of special pujas and special recitation of mantras and sadhanas and, special diet. It's been done since the time of Swami Sivananda until now. And in many ashrams in India, people celebrate Ekadashi. Many yogis fast on Ekadashi, so that you don't have food in your stomach. You can fully get the benefit of having the prana fixed in the Anya and Hatha chakra, because when you eat, your prana has to perform the function also of digestion. So your prana cannot really stay there because it has to go and digest. That brings a lot of tamas in your mind, so you don't take full advantage of it. So people fast to take full advantage. They fast and do japa or do pranayama, meditation, to get full advantage of that day. So if you look at the Vedic calendar, all those celebrations like Ganesha Chaturthi. Chaturthi is the fourth day, right? Then you have, Vijaya Dasami, those who've been longer time here, the festival of Navaratri, and the importance of the 10th day, the day of the victory, the day the goddess killed the demon. So this is why, because it's a Dasami Titi. Not only Dasami Titi when the sun is in a particular place in the sky. So it happens once a year only. And then that's a very powerful time also. And like that there are Shivaratri. Yeah, there is a Shivaratri every month. And there is one Mahashivaratri once a year. So every 14th day of the waxing, just one day before the new moon, is a Shivaratri night. Every month, right? But then once a year, it is the Mahashivaratri. And then that is because there is a particular relationship, position of the sun and the moon. I mean, the 14th Titi happens, but in a particular area of the sky where it's most auspicious to connect to the energy of Shiva. What is the energy of Shiva? Is the energy of really being the witness, and the energy of detachment, the energy of perfect meditation. So the yogis celebrate and do, usually they do sannyas initiation during Shivaratri, and they do, many kind of initiations and homas and chanting all night without sleeping. That's the most traditional sadhana that you do in Shivaratri. You don't sleep the whole night, you just chant the mantra. You do mantra Om Namah Shivaya, just to remain awake in that day. Then you gain a lot of spiritual strength from doing it on that day. So I'm going to have to finish now. There are many more interesting things in astrology, but just to give you an idea of how related is our nadis, our breath, our state of consciousness to whatever happens outside, the moon, the sun, the seasons, the eclipses. Why? Because they are really not outside, it's just really an external projection of our mind. Any question? One question I can take, if anybody has. Oh, yes. Yeah. What? How to calculate it? Well, you need to, it's not going to be easy to teach you now. You have to find the day when the sun and the moon are both in exaltation sign, and there is Tritiya. It has to be on the third Titi. It has to be the Titi number 3 of the waxing cycle, when the sun is in Aries and the moon is in Taurus, right? But not in the Western astrology, the zodiac, in the Vedic zodiac. The Vedic zodiac is different than the Western. We use the sidereal zodiac, which is really has the correspondence with the stars, with the constellations. Western astrology uses this tropical zodiac, which is more a symbolic zodiac but has no more correspondence to the actual constellations. So when I say the sun is in Aries, it means it's really in the constellation of Aries, and not just in the first part after the vernal equinox. That's what the Western it means. The Western astrology is based on the day of the equinox. From there they divide the year 12 sections. The first is called Aries, second Taurus, and so on. Long time ago it used to coincide, but now because of the precession of the equinoxes, then there is no more correspondence. They are out of phase. But Vedic astrology rectifies that. When we say the moon in Aries, it means it's really in the constellation of Aries. So it's the sun in Aries, the moon in Taurus, and the Titi has to be the third Titi. When you find these 3 conditions, then this is that very, very auspicious day. And so, there are software to calculate it. You can find it on the internet, or there are ways to find it, or you ask some astrologer to calculate it. Also has to be calculated for the local place, because it might be in India in one date and here in the previous date, right? Because it happens simultaneously all over the world. But one moment, you see, at this time, it's already the next day in India or in China. Here we are still on what day? I never know what day we are. Saturday, but in India it's Sunday, So here's the 28th, and in India it's already 29. So you go to internet, you find, okay, this Akshaya Tritiya, that's the name of this astrological position. It will be on, the 29th. But then if you do it here on the 29th, it's already passed. It's already gone. So it has to be calculated for the local place. Okay, we're going to conclude here. Announcements.